Hello and welcome to Power Hour. Today's topic is SharePoint Quick Steps. They're brand new and it gives you a quick way to do things like set a value, send an email in lists and libraries. Let's get started. Hello again, welcome to Power Hour. I'm Laura Rogers and I have my cohort Joelle Jobson in the chat as well to talk to you all today about our topic, Quick Steps. So you might have seen it, it's been rolling out. It exists in lists and libraries in SharePoint, and Microsoft is retiring SharePoint alerts. So the SharePoint alerts are going away and we have quick steps and other kind of rules and different actions and ways that we can get notified about things in SharePoint. So if this is your first time watching Power Hour, this is a show we do Wednesdays at 11 Central. We've been doing this for about 12 years. We cover all these topics really geared towards business users and power users, not anything too technical, and I love talking about new things that get rolled out like this. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we will get started with a demo. All right, so here we have SharePoint, and if you are in Power Hour and if you want to join in Teams, wherever you're watching this, there's a button or link to request to join, and you can actually join us in Teams and chat with us. So here is my SharePoint site on the screen, which you all actually have access to when you're in here. So when you get accepted to your request to join, you're going to be put in this Power Hour team, and we go to the general channel. And on the general channel, I have notes where this one always does this. It's got notes with links according to whatever we're talking about. Today's quick steps. It's got a link to Microsoft's official documentation. And then here is today's video 514. You can click the little chat bubble over here to talk to us, and this is our live chat. So when you see me talking to people, that's who I'm talking to. So, all right, so let's take a look at quick steps. So where can we find them? Where are they? They're in lists and libraries. So I'm going to go over to just a list I have called purchase requests, and we'll take a look at where you can find this. You're going to go to the automate button, and there it is. You all check it out, look and see if it's in your tenant yet. See if you've come across it before. I'm interested to hear if you've tried it and what you think about it. You can create a quick step here, and then once you've created quick steps, you can click Manage Quick Steps to make changes to them and turn them on and off. So we'll go ahead and click Create Quick Step, and then here is this is what you're going to be able to do. These are the ways that you can create a quick step. So this is going to be, it's got these delineated. So it says for selected items, which means you'll click on a specific item to do one of these things. And then for the whole list, you can do this one thing. So you'll be able to draft an email, which pulls up a draft of an email. It doesn't just send it. So you can start typing it. Start a Teams chat, and it lets you pick people to start Teams chat with. Set a value, so it's going to say like to take a specific field and set it to a certain value just very quickly. And then execute a flow, and that one's a little tricky because it entails a flow ID. And for the current list, which means you can just run a flow that's not specific to a particular item, and this is how you can execute that one. So we're going to go through these just one at a time and chat about them and demonstrate and brainstorm and think about some ideas about how you think you'd like to start using these quick steps. So first of all, let's try draft an email. So I am on a list of, this is my list of purchase requests. So let's just see kind of what we have with a purchase request. Well, I'll go click and look at an existing item. And I have information about something that I'm purchasing. I have a vendor email address. So I'll just kind of make up an email address on this one and go ahead and save it. And of course, what I'm about to show you is an example of sending an email to a vendor. So I've got a vendor email on this one. Now I'll show you what it would look like if you didn't have a vendor, but I'm going to go ahead and create a quick step to draft an email. And this can be to anyone, anyone at all, because it doesn't have to be a person in your organization, because it's just going to be pulling up a blank draft of an email. So this doesn't have to be somebody internal, which is huge. So we're going to say email the vendor. And notice that, so vendor email was just a text box. It wasn't even, so it has people pickers listed here, but it also has text box listed here. So again, it's just a text column with somebody typing an email address in it. So that's vendor email, and then hi vendor. You just make up a subject, but you'll be able to edit it once you kick off this quick step. So do I want to include an item link in the message body? Now, if you're sending this to an external person, they may or may not have access to your actual internal SharePoint item. So that's up to you whether you think people are going to be using this to try and send a link. I'll go ahead and include the link and show you what this looks like. So now I'm on the Manage Quick Steps screen as soon as I've created a quick step, and it shows me the quick step listed here. But to get back to that, I can just click Manage Quick Steps, and now I have it listed here, and I can see that it's turned on. I could just turn it off without having to delete it. And I can also delete the quick step like this and go edit it. So let's try this out. So I can just right click anywhere on this item, choose Automate, and choose Email the Vendor. So notice it's very fast. I don't have to go to any extra little menus here. It's just automate and then do that thing. So now what that does is it's just pulling up a new blank email for me. So this is just, of course, I just used a fake email address for the vendor. I just put me@here.com. So that's not even a real email address. But notice that it's got who it's from. It's just like you're drafting an email. It's from me, it's to this person. It's got the subject line that I picked when I created the rule. And then it's got a link to that full link to that SharePoint item. And then of course I can just type whatever I want in this, here's stuff there. I just type whatever I want in the email and hit send. So that's why it's called draft an email, because it gives you the opportunity to write more information. It's not automatically just going to send something. All right, so that's the draft an email concept. So think about other ideas of who you'd want to draft an email to. Maybe I've got documents that are going through an approval process, and I want to be able to, I'll go ahead and go to this one and say automate quick steps. This is a document library. And draft an email. So it's going to have all these approvers. So this is a different Power Hour that we did where we had like a multi-stage approval process. But I could say, I want to draft an email to approver 1, and of course give that a name. So then somebody could just quickly say, I want to send an email to whoever's in this column. So it will work with a people picker or text. Okay, pretty fun, right? Now, the next type of quick step, we'll go to Automate Quick Steps and choose Create a Quick Step, and then Start a Teams Chat. So it's going to start a Teams chat. Now, also, while I'm creating a quick step, it has a drop down here with the other quick step types. So I could just change my mind and change it to draft an email, change it to a different one as I'm building it. But it will always have this little familiar interface, and it looks kind of similar to the way it looks when you're creating rules in a list or library, where it's got the little pretty drop downs to fill them out. So now who do I want to start a Teams chat with? Now we did this example in the demo that we did. We had a column that we had multiple approvers in, and we were talking about how to do a workflow around that. But we also have just like maybe created by. So you could have multiple people. So you could have multiple approvers that I'm starting a Teams chat with. And that way, think about something that is going through an approval process and you want to you have one field, it allows multiple people, and you want to just have a conversation with those people about that item. So you can do that, start a Teams chat. So I'm going to call this chat with approvers. And of course, also include item link and message body. So let's go look at what chat with approvers looks like. Now let's pick one that I need to make sure that it has approvers. So I'll just say this first one. Yes, it has Brenda and Joelle are the approvers. So I can say automate and chat with approvers. And that is, I'll just open this in the web. And that's going to pull up a chat, and notice that it's got their names already in it. So it says Brenda and Joelle. And then it's already got a link to the item. Now that's kind of ugly the way it looks. I think Microsoft's working on that, like that kind of just visually the way it looks to send an item to someone. I think I saw an update somewhere where they were talking about it looking a little nicer. Chat about this. So now we are in a chat. I'm in a chat with Brenda and Joelle, and we're talking, and they can both just click to go open that item that I sent them. I click it and it takes them to that specific item, and then we're having a chat. So that's another type of quick step that you'll be able to do. Let's see. Robin says, is there a way to improve the link? No. There is not a way to change what the link is that it sends them. Unfortunately, it's not editable. So yeah, for now you get what you get with that, unfortunately. So let's see. So the next type of quick step, we'll go to automate, go to quick steps, create a quick step, and then it's got set a value. So I'm going to go ahead and go over to this issue tracker list because this is perfect. I have a status. So I just want to quickly be able to close an issue. So I'll go ahead and go automate quick steps, create a quick step, and then set a value. It says set the value in what column? I'll say status, and I'll say set it to close. So I'll just say close this issue. And then I can even do another one. And I'll say set the value in priority to, and notice it's a drop down. So it's got different, whatever the choices are in the drop down, it's got them listed here. It's also got date reported. That's a date column. So I could set it to today or a specific date very quickly. So let's see, date reported to today. So this one, now I've got a set a status and a set the date reported. And I've got a few other ones that I created. Let's say I've got a duplicate here. I created close the issue twice, so I just deleted one of them. And then I've got set date reported for today. So this is in my issue tracker. Also, Annette says, what if they don't have permission to the list and they won't be able to get to it in the link? So it's going to let you send a link, but they might not have access. Just like in the draft and email one, it's going to have you choose whether or not it has a link. So with starting a Teams chat, it's assuming that if you want to chat with people about it, they are at least internal to your organization. But if they don't have access to that item, it doesn't have any kind of prompt necessarily that tells you that. Okay, so this one is the first one here, and I'll go ahead and go to automate, and I'll choose close this issue. So now look at that. Look how fast that was. It says status closed. And then this one has got a date reported this one says date reported 4/25. And let's just see how it works with the changing a date. Change it to today. Look at that. Today's 5/14/2025. It just changed it very instantaneously. So that's a very fast way to set a value. Also, we learned in other Power Hours how to do, when you're doing JSON formatting on a column, how you can set an action that will do the same thing. You can create a button, your own button using JSON, and create an action that does that. And that was called, I think, quick actions or something like that. Run an action. I'll have to go look and see what that other Power Hour was called but that one was really fun because you can make the button look like however you want and make it set whatever field value. You can make it set multiple field values too. So you could say, I want to assign this to myself and set date assigned to today and do it all in one fell swoop. So yes, you can select multiple items, Lisa. Let's try that out. So I'm just going to say, select all 3 of those, and none of those are closed. So I'll say automate and then close this issue. And look at that. It set them all 3 to close. So yes, that is a very fast way to do that too. Let's try another one. Let's say I'm going to select a couple of these and just do automate up here. And notice that it doesn't have all of the different options here. It doesn't have every single quick step that I created. It just has the ones where I'm setting a field. So I can't, if I have a single item selected, notice that I have the ability to send an email, chat with approvers, all these different things. But if I select multiple items, I can only do the ones that set a field value. Yeah. Okay, so let's move on to the next type of quick step. Go to automate, quick steps, and we have send an approval request. So send an approval request, we have, we've kind of talked about approvals that are built into lists and libraries many times. I'm going to go to a different, I'll go to company events, and I'll say I want to create an approval request for when I create a company event. So I'll go ahead and say, I want to double check something because there is a setting called content approval. And I want to make sure so that setting is not on. So I want to double check. So while I'm testing this. And so I want to say, let's create a quick step. And this one doesn't have start an approval. Notice that because I haven't ever used approvals in here. Oh, interesting. So you actually have to configure approvals before it will let you do the start an approval quick step. I love it when I discover things live as I'm doing demos. So this company events list doesn't have approvers set up. It doesn't have approvals set up. So I'll just show you one more time. It is not listed here in create the quick step. So I'd have to go to configure approvals, enable approvals, and now I have noticed that all these has an approval status now. So this goes back to that concept of requesting approval by clicking this button. But now it's just a slightly different way of doing it. Let's go. Notice we've got send an approval request listed here now. So I've got send an approval request to, and I have all the different people pickers that are in this list. This is the one that, so the approvers column is the one that is built in. That just got created when I turned on content approval. This one, approvers multiple, I know that I created that. I think I created that myself, but it's got all the different people pickers that you have in your list are going to be here. So I'll say send an approval request to, in this case, let's see. Let me look. I want to see what some of these columns have in them. Like that. Oh yeah. So this is something that, now this company events list, this is something that we have tested and created all these different approval columns for. And it has this approvers column that's tied in with the approval status. That is a mess. So I want to test this in a better way. I want to test this by cleanly creating a new list and just make sure that I'm not going to get it all mixed in with kind of other columns that I've created and other demos that I've done. So we'll just quickly create another new list. And we'll just pick one of these templates that's already got a whole bunch in it. So we'll say event itinerary. That's a good one. So now we're going to have an event itinerary, and we'll get the itineraries approved. So I don't have any events in here yet. I'll just add one real quick. Put myself. Okay, nice. So we have to have one to test with. So now let's go look at that again. Okay, so it doesn't have approvals listed here because I haven't turned on approvals yet. So also it doesn't have, let me go ahead like I'm going to add a column here. It doesn't have any kind of approval people or approval columns or anything like that. Every list is going to have who created the item, created by, and who last modified it. Those are the people pickers that are in here. And we also have speaker. That is a people picker. So now let's go configure approvals, enable approvals, and then it's going to create all those different approval columns. So I want to be able to look at those when we're testing it. So I'm going to get rid of some of this kind of extraneous information here, notes and all that stuff. And I want approvers, approval creator. And so now it's nice and clean and has just the columns that are needed for this process. So if I clicked here on this not submitted item, column, it would let me say what the item is and who all the approvers are, and then those approvers would appear in this column over here. But instead of doing that, that's the thing we've already covered in another Power Hour. Let's do the quick step to send an approval request. So who am I going to send it to? I'll send it to the speakers because I want the speakers to know that I want them to speak at this event. So I want them to be sure and look at it and approve that they're going to be presenting some session. So send to speakers for approval. And then send approval request. Do I want a confirmation dialogue or do I want immediately? So we're going to try both of these. I'll go ahead and just do with confirmation dialogue. And also, do I want all approvers or any of them to be able to accept? So I'll just say if it's got multiple people that are in that people picker, then it will wait for all of them to do the approval. And then create. And these are very, very simple. They don't have any extra logic. There's not any extra settings anywhere. What you see on that screen, that is the approval. So the more advanced executive flow, that's where we're going to have choices, and that's where we're going to make it do anything we want and have just more of a free-form canvas to completely build out a whole automated process. But this send an approval quick step just has what you see on the screen. So now I have, I'm the speaker. So now I can click on this, automate, and choose send to speakers for approval, which is a little faster. So it brings up a dialogue. Remember, it asked me if I wanted it to bring up a dialogue. So this really just has all the settings that I already put in it. And it has whether I can choose whether they need to go in the assigned order if I had multiple people, and I could write more information. So that's going to, I'll just submit that. And then when I send an approval request, it's actually going to give me a pop-up. I'll put Teams over here and get that pop-up in Teams for an approval. So it just says, Laura sent you an approval request. I sent it to myself. So now it's got a link to the item. It says pending response and click approve. So now it goes from, see, it says requested is what the column says. And then after I approve it, it's going to say it was approved. It just takes a couple minutes. So I have to kind of refresh the screen a couple of times to get it to, yeah, when we demoed this before, it took a couple minutes. So now the approval status is there, and now it's got who the approvers were, and the approval creator was me. I'm the one who kicked it off. Now I'm going to go ahead and let me refresh this one more time. And now it says approved. I'm going to add a different item because I don't want to get it confused with something that I've already approved. Also, I want to point out that If I'm editing an item, I change it to 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's already been approved. Look at this. It says this item has been submitted for approval and was already approved or rejected. So editing this is going to reset the request. So I'll say, okay. So now I made a change to it, but it's not approved anymore. I love that. I love that you can't just go willy-nilly making changes to things after they're already approved. So that's huge. So now let's do another one. I'll just say test 2. Speakers, that's important. And a lot of that stuff's not important. I'll just save that. Okay, so now this is the second one. This is test 2. So now I'm going to change my quick step, and I'm going to change that setting. So the setting said with confirmation dialog, and now I'm going to change it to immediately. So instead of having that pop up, that extra step for me to type additional information, it's just going to send it. So automate, send to speakers for approval, and now it's done. So that's the difference. If you're wondering what the difference is between using this little approval status dialog and clicking it and filling it all out versus creating a quick step, the quick steps just got the dynamic information in it already, and it's just ready to go, and it's just easier for end users to just quickly do that. Yes, you do need to enable. So before I was able to go to this and send an approval request, I had to go here and configure approvals and turn that on. Yes. So now this one says requested. And so let's go look. It says Laura Rogers sent you a request, and it's showing it's got both of us pending response, but I think I set it to just anyone can approve. If I didn't, then it would also go wait for Brenda to approve it as well. So we'll just see. So now it says requested, and when it says requested, I can actually click on it and go see the details. So it says she hasn't responded, but I approved it. I'm the one who requested it. It goes upside down. So it starts at the bottom. It says requested by me, approved by me, and no response yet from Brenda. So that is how, so now this one says approved. So since I approved it, and let's go look one more time at that quick step. I said any of the approvers. So if I had said all approvers, then it would still be waiting for Brenda to also approve it. So that's how that one works. All right, so now let's, now again, also all of these concepts work in libraries as well. So all the same things that you can do, again, quick steps, draft an email, start a Teams chat, set a value. And again, if you have approvals turned on, you'll have the start an approval. And then let's talk now about execute a flow, because this one is, that one's a little trickier. It's a lot trickier. It is not as simple. So you actually have to have a flow ahead of time. Now these two are different. So if I want an execute a flow on a specific file, then I use this execute a flow. But if I want to use the other one, I use the other execute a flow. Let's see. Somebody said, can you add word attachments to the list? Yes, you can have attachments in any list. I'm not sure why you would want to add attachments. So just by default, anytime you create a list, you have the ability to add attachments to it. But when you attach items to a SharePoint list, as opposed to just putting them in a library, you don't get all the version history, you don't get the live co-authoring, you don't get the ability to just be working on a file and collaborating with it, with people on it. So there are a lot of negatives to just putting a file as an attachment in a list if it's a file that you need to be working on and changing. So that's more like for static files, like if you have an image of something that needs to be associated with this item, or if you have a static, just like a PDF that's never going to change, that would be good. But yeah, you can always add attachments to lists. So now let's go ahead and talk about the flow and the difference between what we can do. So on our issue tracker, so this is a flow. Okay, so in our last couple of power hours ago, We created a few different flows that will create a SharePoint site. I was talking about 3 different ways to create a SharePoint site via flow. So this is one of the flows we created that's got a manual trigger, and it just goes through this process of creating a Microsoft 365 group. So you give it a site name and then it creates that group. So since it's got a manual trigger, I'm able to just add it to the top of any list. So I'll just, for this particular case, this flow of creating a site is not really related to these items, but I want to show you how to add it to the list. So I go to automate, and I'm just on this list of products. I don't have any quick steps yet. Create a quick step, and I'm going to execute a flow for the current list. So this has just got a manual trigger, and I just have to give it a name. So create site. I want to create a SharePoint site. This is the tricky part. I have to give it a flow ID. Now, when you go and look at the documentation, Microsoft's documentation, it has 2 different sets of steps, one for just a flow that you created, just personal productivity flow, and another set of steps if you went in a solution and created a flow. It's 2 different ways to go get that flow ID. So I'm just going to do this way of I just created this directly in my flows. And this one is, I go to export and I go get flow identifier. So at first I thought I could just go to the URL and get the URL, just the GUID, just straight out of the address, and just use that to execute the flow. No, it needs to have the flow identifier. So you have to click get flow identifier, click copy, and then go back and click paste. So then now I can create a site. So now I don't have to click on an item. I can just say run whatever that flow is. And this flow happens to have an initiation form. So it's going to ask me, let's see, test. There. And that is actually running the flow that's creating a SharePoint site now with that name, test 1133. So that's how it would work if you're creating a flow, that you can have one that runs on a trigger or runs on a timer. So this one's a scheduled flow. So let's go try this one. And this would just run on the whole list. So not necessarily at specific item in the list. So let's go see which list this one's associated with. This one goes to this human resources site. And go to that one. This is just another one of the sites. You all have access to it too. And it goes to the task list and it looks for tasks that are not completed and the due date is less than now. And it's going to find them all and send an email. So it's going to go through the whole list and do this. Now this is on a recurrence once a week, but I'm going to go ahead and just see if it will let me add this as just being able to manually trigger it. So once a week, get all the overdue and incomplete tasks, and I'll go get flow identifier, copy that, and then I'm on my human resources list of tasks here, and automate, quick steps, and execute a flow. Again, I'm going to do it for the whole list this time. Send overdue task email. And then there's where I paste my flow ID. It has the environment as part of this flow ID that it provides. So your flow does not have to be in the default environment because that will be all included here. So yeah, no, it can be in a different environment. So now let's try that. So again, I'm not clicking on an item. I'll just click send overdue task email. And the flow, it doesn't have any initiation parameters. I'll just click run flow. And now it is, let's go look at my flow. Oh, it failed. Let's see, get items. Oh, okay. So it just doesn't like that task status and due date. So it doesn't like the query that I wrote. Okay, I'm not going to troubleshoot my query. I really just wanted to show you how you can kick off flows, but it did kick off, it did let me trigger it. So it can be a manual trigger or a scheduled flow, and it will let me trigger it. So I just had something in the flow that was not querying the items correctly, but yeah. So let's do the other kind. So now the next thing we're going to do is a flow. Now this is a flow from another demo that we did, where we did a power hour about the serial approval action. So notice, look, they have a new icon here. And this is a sequential approval. So this is a flow that I have 3 different approvers in 3 different columns in this documents to approve library. So I fill each one of them out, and then it starts an approval process. So this is the one that I'm going to go ahead and add using that execute a flow. So let's see. And notice I have the for a selected file is my trigger. That makes sense, right? Because I'm going to be picking a specific item in the list or library. So I'll take that, get my flow identifier, copy it, and then I'll go back over to documents to approve. That was the library in there that I was referring to. And I'll go ahead and create a quick step. And this one is not the whole library like I did a minute ago. And I'm going to execute a flow on that item. So start approval. I'm going to make this very specific. I don't want the drop down to look anything like any of the other approvals that are in there. So I just put XYZ on it. So then there's my flow ID. Okay, I'll take a look at your questions in a couple minutes. Okay, so this one says start XYZ approval. And so notice that it's not listed up here. That's good because I don't have a specific item in here yet. So I'll go ahead and I'm going to put a new file. Let's see. I've got a whole document library full of little fake files I can upload. Okay, so this is what we built in another power hour, but instead of clicking this beautiful button, that's kind of what I was telling you about. Instead of clicking that button, I'm going to click this other button. Okay, here it is. So see, I want to make sure and delineate it from all the other little approval buttons everywhere. So this one says start XYZ approval. That's the quick step I just created. And then this is the initiation form, the initiation parameters of the form that's part of the flow that I was just showing you. So I'll just put myself. Okay, so now this other thing that we built in another power hour was a way to click this button to do the exact same thing. It's the exact same thing. So we just are not having to build this whole complex button. We're just kicking it off by clicking on the item and going to automate and then clicking a button. So that's the big difference. So the difference is you can make the user click 3 buttons like this, click, click, click to start an approval, or you can just do a little extra work and write some JSON code that will start an approval this way. So yeah, I'll go find those other power hours that I'm kind of referencing, but I think it was just like a month or 2 ago. But so it's really 2 different ways to do the exact same thing to kick off the exact same flow. Yeah, so let me see if it kicked off. Oh, it's running. Yeah, so it sent the approval to me. Let's see. Yep, Laura Rogers sent you a request. Okay, click approve. And then in that flow, let's see, let me refresh it, see what it's doing. I'm not sure how much time I want to spend refreshing the screen and seeing it run, but I really just want to show you that kind of different ways to trigger the things that are kicking off. So I'll go ahead and do a quick recap, and then I'll get to your questions in the chat. So when we are looking at lists and libraries in SharePoint, we have a few different quick steps that we can do. But what I'm going to do now is kind of compare these quick steps to other ways, because in all of our power hours over the 12 years, we're always talking about this kind of thing: automations, how to do approvals, quick, easy way to do approvals, more complex ones. So I want to kind of explain the difference between some of these. Now, draft an email, that is a brand new concept. So that is not something that you can just quickly and easily do. You can't make an email just pop up. Now, there's a way that you could construct a hyperlink that's got dynamic information in it with like a mail to in a hyperlink, but that is very technical. So draft an email is just a nice simple way to say who in this list do you want to quickly send an email to, and it lets you just type more information. So those are kind of two ways to be able to accomplish that. If you want to look up with HTML, it's mail to, and it's mail to : and that's how you could create a hyperlink that pulls up a new email. Start a Teams chat. That's something that is technically, you could do that by creating a flow, but the flow is not going to pop you over to Teams and have the people's name and have the link ready to talk to them. So that's another one that's very unique to Quick Steps. Now, set a value, that's the one that we have done in previous power hours, where just like that little start approval button I just showed you, that's one where it is more advanced to go in and write the syntax to create the custom button, use the JSON, and have it set one or more values. So those are kind of two different ways to do that. And the other way, like I showed you in that in here, it's much faster and easier for the end user. So this is, let's see, I'm going to format this column. So see, it's a little more complex for you as the person building it to go put the set value in here and say what you want the values to be that you're setting. But that's what this button does. You click the button and it sets a value. So that's two different ways to do it. One is a way more kind of easy mode for the person creating it, but the second way is more complex for the person creating it, but easier for end users. So you get a lot of that in SharePoint. And then another thing that we looked at is they had the ability to start an approval if you've configured approvals in your list, and comparing that to, also go to this issue tracker, comparing that to having that approvals, where was it? The button, here we go. So once you turn on approvals for a list or library, you're going to have, just turn it on by clicking to configure it and turning it on. You're going to have a button on every item where you can start an approval. But each time you do this, you have to pick who the approvers are, to change the settings in here, decide whether you want to require a response and do that. But if you automate it with a quick step, it's just the settings are already all in there and it's just a couple of clicks. So it's also more obvious, though, if they're clicking a button like this than it is if you're going click, and you're going through multiple menus to kick off the quick steps. So that's another kind of difference there. And then the next one is execute a flow. And for the current list, that is new, because there's never been a way necessarily to just kick off a flow that will just run just with a manual trigger or a scheduled flow or anything like that. That's not necessarily for that specific item. So to be able to click the drop down at the top and just kick off a flow, that's really good. That's a nice new feature. But this one has always been around because we can always execute a flow by creating a flow with the for a selected item action. And then when you do that, your flow will already be listed in this little automate section right here. So it would be listed here using that. So that's kind of the comparison between ways that we've been able to do it before. And then another thing that I was mentioning is that Microsoft is retiring SharePoint alerts. That's this little feature. That's very old. It's been in there for 20 years. And then for things like that are similar to quick steps, you have rules. And I know we've done a whole other Power Hour about rules, but rules are going to be more just based on getting alerted about things happening in the list. So that's kind of the difference between all those little alerts, quick steps, rules, and when you'd use different things like that. Hopefully that's helpful. All right, let's get to the questions. Oh, so as far as permissions, permissions on that. So let's see, the list that I just created a few minutes ago was an event itinerary. So this list, all of you have access to. I'll put it in the chat. And you probably, any of you could go in here and create forms, create rules, you could customize the list with Power Apps. You could create quick steps, but, and feel free to try it. But if you lock down the permissions, so the permissions by default when you create a new list in SharePoint is going to be edit. It gives all the members just edit permission. Let me go over to my company events list. And I'm not going to mess with the one that I just told you to go in there and try and edit. I'll go to my company events list and go to list settings and go to permissions for this list. So I usually try to make it a habit of, so by default, a list is going to look like this, and members, all the members of the site are going to have edit permissions. I always like to stop inheriting and change it to contribute. So contribute means you can add, edit, delete items, but you're not managing the whole list. Notice the difference. I know I've gone on a rant about this probably 100 times over the last 10 years or so, but when people have edit permission, they can edit, add, edit, and delete and manage the entire list or library. They could delete the list or library. They could mess with the forms. They could change all the settings. So that's what edit permission allows. So I like to change it to contribute. Just as soon as I create a list, I like to change it to contribute. You used to be able to set it to contribute at the site level. You can't do that anymore. You have to go do it one list at a time. So yeah. All right. So this one, you're going to have edit permission, and you can change the quick steps if you have edit permission. So anybody who has edit permission is going to be able to go manage the quick steps. So feel free to double check that in this list if you'd like, and let me know your findings. So what else? Let me go find another. Now, people do, of course, need to have permission to the list if you're making changes to the list. And if you send somebody a link to the list, they need to have permission to the list to be able to get to it. But that was just a concept of permissions to be able to create quick steps. So by default, on a list that you have not split inheritance from, anybody can edit the quick steps. So I just saw this, you saw this row change. Somebody was in there editing it, it looked like. See if you can create quick steps in there. Let me see, what other questions did I miss? Review the chat questions starting. Well, yeah, that's kind of what we're testing right now. Are the quick steps only available to the creator or everyone? It's everyone who has edit permission. So it looks like somebody, Jer is in here editing that first item. But let's see. That's the one that I created. You all let me know if you see them. What else? Oh, quick step is grayed out. Now, you are also all visitors in here. You're external users. So that could be the problem, why it's grayed out in here. Yeah. I'm assuming that that's it. So I'll have to just double check on a tenant. I can't imagine that these would be personal just for me in a list, but I have not double checked that. So, all right. Well, let me switch back over here. That was fun. It was fun trying all that out and testing it. I can see people are in here editing things and trying things out. It's fun. Okay. All right, thanks so much for everybody for coming to Power Hour. Check out my training at iwmentor.com, and you can take entire SharePoint courses, Power Automate courses, all these things that you learn in kind of little small snippets in Power Hour. There is a just full, if you want to learn everything in the proper order, all organized, head over to iwmentor.com. I've got a few free courses and a ultimate plan that includes all of the courses. Check it out. And you can also click schedule at the top of the page at iwmentor.com to see when our next Power Hours are going to be. I think we're skipping a couple of weeks because of, the end of school, etc. But they're all listed there, and feel free to join in by just jumping into Teams whenever we hold our next Power Hour. So I will see you all next time. And thanks, Joelle, over in the chat. Over and out.